Welcome back to another episode of Rock Boys Football. Some massive news coming for this Michigan football program late Friday afternoon as we got our next defensive line coach, Lou Esposito, previously at Western Michigan, just took a job at Memphis, coming to Ann Arbor. And Dill, what stands out to me about this hire, and we've talked a little bit about him earlier in the week when he kind of emerged as a candidate, you're not going to find many coaches that are better at evaluating talent and developing talent than Lou Esposito. We're going to get into some of the players that he's worked with at Western Michigan, but you look at what Michigan has done so well the last couple of years. It's been the talent evaluation on the recruiting trail, and it's been the development, right? Guys like Chris Jenkins, Mike Morse, two low-ranked three-stars coming to Michigan, becoming NFL players. Still, Kenny Grant was the number 47th defensive lineman in his class coming out of high school. Michigan comes in with him, develops him into being one of the best defensive linemen heading into 2024. Lou Esposito kind of fits right in terms of what Michigan wants to do. I really do like this hire, want to get into it. Before we do, and as always, just want to say thank you to you guys. A massive shout out to the Michigan fans. Y'all know the boys are Michigan fans, not a program we like talking about more, whether we're talking the recruiting trail, the coaching hires, the amount of support you guys have shown the boys truly does mean a lot. If y'all do enjoy the content, consider subscribing to the channel. And Dill, I'm going to give you the T-box here. Lou Esposito coming to Ann Arbor. How we feeling?
Yeah, I mean, I'm with you. I think it fits exactly what Michigan wants to do. And it's, again, this isn't necessarily like your recruiting hire. He didn't come from big programs as an analyst. And kind of, that's not why he's necessarily getting the job at Michigan. I don't mean that. That doesn't mean he can't recruit, obviously. He's just never been at a huge school. And you can tell Michigan's making an effort to be really good in recruiting. They're hiring player personnel guys that I think are a step in the right direction for sure. But at the end of the day, you need guys who can coach. You need guys who can develop guys up through the program. And when you look at what Esposito's done in his career, that's where he's made his living. And again, as much as recruiting has kind of taken the forefront of college football to an extent, at the end of the day, you need to get your guys better through their program and give them kind of a track to the NFL. I mean, Esposito's done that at a really high level at a place that it's kind of hard to do it at.
I think you make a really good point in terms of, all right, Lou Esposito is not necessarily a proven top-end recruiter at the Power 5 level in college football. That's just because he hasn't really got an opportunity. Like, let's just be frank, at Western Michigan, you're not pulling in 4- and 5-star kind of guys. You got to do a really good job developing and identifying talent out of high school. Lou Esposito wearing a Michigan logo on his shirt on the recruiting trail, I mean, I think it could be pretty effective, especially when you have a track record of superior development at Western Michigan. Dill, kind of getting into that, you said it best. Recruiting has taken a life on its own, right? There are a lot of different services that give recruiting rankings, and fans follow it rapidly. We do as well. That being said, the recruiting ranking, sometimes you get too wrapped up in it, right? Kenneth Grant, Chris Jenkins, Mike Morse, guys that were kind of diamonds in the rough, not necessarily well respected in the recruiting space, get developed into NFL caliber guys. Lou Esposito has done exactly that at Western Michigan. You take a look at some of the guys that he recruited to Western Michigan and now are making their way into the NFL. Andre Carter emerged as one of the better edge rushers in the MAC in 2022, transfers to Indiana, largely one of the better defensive linemen in the Big Ten last year. You take a look at Marshawn Nealand, another guy that you see the ranking outside of the top 3,000 nationally, brings him to Western Michigan. He's probably going to be a top 100 pick. And then the last guy you want to talk about is Braden Fisk, a guy that probably is the most well-known out of the bunch, a guy that was recruited to Western Michigan as an offensive guard, emerges as one of the better interior defensive linemen for Florida State. Lou Esposito not only has done a great job developing players, but has done a great job identifying guys that are overlooked by the recruiting services in other college football programs, getting them into the program and getting them to be All-American, all kind of NFL draft pick caliber kind of guys.
And that's, I think, going to become an increasingly important part of college football because you do see some of those like higher end guys. I mean, they are a little more prone to transfer if they don't play immediately. Like, I think there will be like you build a bit of your guts up through identifying guys who are more willing probably to stick around and go through the process and like be a little more hungry or come in with a chip on your shoulder just because, again, the transfer portal, like everybody uses it, but it is hard to build sometimes a culture up through that when guys leave in and out. Again, if you can identify some of those guys, like you've seen Michigan be able to keep program or teams together for a long time, Rod Moore, Kenny Grant, like those type of guys who, again, maybe didn't come in as the hottest commodities, but get really, really good. And then you just like you stick with that school and do a really good job building your culture up through that way.
I completely agree. And you look at like that's kind of how Michigan has found its success. And I think what you look at guys like Mike Bear, we've talked about a lot, Mikey Sandstrom, those are all some names that turned into all Big Ten guys that were not very coveted coming out of high school. And it's easy for fans to get wrapped up in what's our 24/7 sports team composite ranking and kind of ignore the idea of, hey, we're getting guys that fit what we want to do, guys that we know we can develop into being really high level college football players. To kind of round out this conversation, you go to what Sherrone Moore has done with this staff. It's a very nice mix of guys that are elite player developers. A guy like Lou Esposito, probably one of the top of that list, but then you're also combining that with guys who have shown that they can get it done on the recruiting trail at the highest of high levels, right? Tony Alford at Ohio State, Brian Jean-Marie, those kind of guys come to mind. And so you look at this staff, one, I think has a really nice balance of kind of NFL guys, college guys, recruiters, developers. I think Sherrone Moore has put a lot of thought in how he wants this staff to look, and you're seeing it be balanced and blended at an extremely high level. Dill, you got to give Sherrone Moore a ton of credit. Obviously, with the Coach Scruggs situation was really unfortunate. Another curveball that Sherrone Moore had to deal with. I mean, the staff is largely complete now, and it's a damn good staff. I think a lot of Michigan fans are very excited about how this looks over the next couple of years.
And frankly, you like to see it becoming a bit of a destination. I mean, guys
Agreed.
want to be there because for a while, the guys weren't getting elevated at the rate you would have wanted to see. Now you kind of look as sending a couple defensive coordinators to the league, guys getting good opportunities from the Michigan kind of tree. I mean, if Coach Moore can kind of build that out, I think that's huge because having really good assistants, I think, is so crucial in college football. I think a lot more crucial, frankly, than people kind of like think. And a lot of times you need to be able to prove that you can get guys elevated. And I think Coach Moore, what you're seeing, he's attracting really, really good candidates, which again, it's something I don't know that Michigan was doing a great job of until like that 2021 year when guys really started to want to be a part of it.
Michigan was doing a pretty bad job at it, if we're being honest. Like they were going through a lot of guys. A lot of guys come to Michigan, don't necessarily get elevated, and in fact, probably just kind of take a step back. And we're kind of cycling through a lot of assistant coaches. You look at the Nick Saban model. I think that's probably the best example of why did Nick Saban have the ability to go out time and time again and hire the best coaches around him? Because there's a proven track record of, hey, you come to Alabama, you spend 2 or 3 years, you're going to go places with your coaching career. It's going to be a stepping stone. Michigan kind of turning into that, right? You talk about Mike McDonald was a defensive coordinator here less than 3 years ago. He's a head coach in the NFL now. Guys like Jesse Minter, Coach Klink. This is a destiny.
Guys making lateral moves to Michigan, but like lateral moves that they think are going to elevate themselves better, which again, in the past, you'd seen a lot of guys making lateral moves from Michigan. Al Washington going to Ohio State.
Josh Gaddis
going to Ohio State. Josh Gaddis leaving. Like lateral moves. But again, they're not lateral in a sense because obviously guys think if they go to Michigan, they have a better shot at moving on with their career.
You look at Brian Jean-Marie, left Tennessee, a blue blood program in the SEC. Tony Alford left Ohio State after being there for 8 years because he feels like Michigan gives him a better opportunity. And again, will most of these guys be on staff in 6 years for Michigan? Probably not, because they're probably getting some more opportunities. But that just means Sherrone Moore is going to reload with just as good of coaches. I think Sherrone Moore, for a guy that hasn't been a head coach for over 12 months, done a phenomenal job really getting this program where it needs to be on the recruiting trail, in the coaching staff department. Another really impressive hire by Sherrone Moore. The boys are fired up. Appreciate you guys rocking with the fellas. If you guys do enjoy the content, consider subscribing to the channel. Appreciate you guys, and we'll talk to y'all later.